if you turn on Fox or anything, it's all like, when we're counting down the minutes and hours until they're going to lob missiles back. Iran's going to lob missiles right back into Israel, and it's going to be World War III.
Let's go.
And we need to start, the U.S. needs to pony up, and we need to start a war with Iran right now.
Yeah. It blows my mind that we're actually sitting in a situation where, like, all of the, like, my parents' generation, like the kind of boomer generation, the older Gen X generations, they were us during the Iraq War. They were like the cogent 30-year-old, 40-year-old adults that understood the world, and the smart ones, at least theoretically, saw through the Iraq War propaganda, or were old enough that they could have and should have, right? And even if they didn't, they are in a position where they should have learned from it by 2005, 6, 7. Like, they should have realized, like, wow, you literally lied us into a war in the Middle East about fake WMDs that didn't exist. All that was made up. Like, and now we're about to get lied into World War III essentially on a very similar sort of, and it's not the same at all, but like taken into it on a similar amount of like propaganda and sort of like they're a threat to everyone kind of. It's like, wow, how is this even like?
It's interesting how Iran's playing their hands.
It is really interesting.
Like, they're holding back. I heard a interesting theory on this somewhere. I don't remember where, but someone was basically explaining it to where the way that this whole geopolitical mess is organized, China and Russia are like becoming closer to Iran, and China and Russia could be like, look, if you guys play it cool and don't start lobbing bombs and starting a war, we can really use you to make the West look like the unhinged maniacs.
I think that's where we're at. I think like, and it's weird to say, but I think we're in a world where the Western nations, call them the globalists, call them the Zionists, call them the cabal, whatever you want to call them, like the Illuminati, I don't know. Those power interests that are sort of like, NATO and the World Economic Forum, I'm just kind of like bringing conspiracy theories all together, the Zionists, the American establishment, the state, they're all kind of aligned in this sort of like Western front. But then you've got the BRICS nations, and Russia is big on standing up to that. And when you actually listen to Putin's speeches in his own words, he very clearly lays out that that's his take, is just like, that is an empire trying to take over the world. And we don't want to, like, what, and I'm just saying what Putin says, believe him or don't, because he is Putin, like he is a KGB lifelong agent and all. But what he says is,
you listen to his interviews, like translated?
Yeah. I mean, not like all of them by any means. I'm not like, I don't have 30 hours in a day, but I've listened to a fair number of them. And there was one really interesting one that is, I'm not gonna be able to remember the name because it's a Russian name, I forget. Where, and he said this more than once, but essentially what he tends to say is like, the West is an empire that is doing evil, woke bullshit, to paraphrase, and he claims that Russia is not trying to expand. We're not trying, like, we don't want more territory. We have so much territory. We could never even use all our own territory. We just want to not be, we just want the world to stay multipolar. We don't want to live in a world that is unipolar, that is ruled by a singular woke as army of this empire. And so he describes their resistance as sort of existential to the fate of the world. And that would align with his alliance with China and his alliance with Iran, and basically with anyone else that will oppose the West. Not because he like wants the new Soviet Union to be, maybe he does, maybe
he's on defense.
Yeah, he's just trying to like, and
he tried to join NATO, like when Bill Clinton was president.
The people do not realize. It blows my mind how people just swallowed the Ukraine line without realizing that, like, A, the 2014 coup was a CIA coup, and then B, like, we were doing what the West has always done, which is like poke until the bear kind of like defends itself, and then be like, see, the bear started this war. And it's always been how it is, and it's how NATO was approaching. It's also how kind of like the aggression was happening, and that's not even to mention all the weird connections that I'm not really familiar with about Ukraine and the biolabs and the Biden family, and I don't even know.
Did you see Lindsey Graham came out and he's like, we got $10 trillion worth of minerals in Ukraine that we can't let Russia give to China.
I did not see that.
We got 10, I think it was 10 trillion. We got $10 trillion worth of valuable minerals that if we let that go to Russia, they're going to share it with China. And we can't let that happen.
You do a good Lindsey Graham voice.
God, dude. Yeah, his
They'll try
southern erotic accent.
Yeah, like any propaganda that they can try, they'll try it. Like the only hope for democracy, like, bro.
He's just given up. I admire Lindsey Graham for basically telling it like he's saying the quiet part out loud now, at least.
Yeah, it's like.
And everyone's like, Lindsey, shut the up.
Yeah,
Lindsey, it's about lesbian basketball players, not about minerals.
Democracy.
Lindsey Graham just gave up. Tim Dillon put it the best. He's like, Lindsey Graham, he's had enough. He's taking his skin suit off and dropping it at the dry cleaners for the last time. He's gonna let everybody know what's going on. He's going right back to the center of the earth.
Yep. So I realized the other day that I should stop calling myself a journalist and start calling myself a comedian.
Yes.
Because A, that
People
way
won't take you as seriously.
Exactly. And B, it's like the real world is such a joke these days that's why all the best journalists are the comedians.
Yes.
Because like, what's the difference between telling it like it is and making a joke when this is the world you're trying to report on? It's like,
yes.
And at least that way it's like, it kind of just puts that protection layer of like, I'm not trying to tell you I know everything. I'm just trying to like figure out what's going on and make some jokes about it. Cause God, it's so depressing if you let it be. And there's this whole other layer that we haven't talked about of just sort of like the spiritual side of, you know, we're all still just people and we're all still living our regular lives and we've got families and like what's happening in Ukraine. Sure, it will affect the global geopolitical stuff, but like also, you know, whether you go work out today and whether you eat healthy food and like whether you treat people with respect and like whether you go and ask that girl on a date, like those are things that will affect our lives like way more. And I think that too many people get sucked into this like information war, this like Twitter space of like politics without remembering that like, yo, just chill out and put the phone down.